Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I hate to do this, but we're a small crowd this morning. Let's move it on forward. I want everybody to be really engaged with our startups. I know, one person per aisle. Everybody wants their own aisle. Let's move it forward. There we go. I like it. Okay, awesome movement. Perfect. Well, welcome to 1 Million Cups this morning. I know it's a light crowd. The reason it's a light crowd is we have the big Kansas City conference going on. It's hosted by Silicon Prairie News. It's one of the best conferences on entrepreneurship and innovation in the country, and it's the first time that it has come to Kansas City. So it's a very exciting day that they're getting kicked off this morning. But myself, along with our community organizers, felt that it was very important that we make our entrepreneurs accessible, and we don't ticket for this event. We want you to be here and be engaged, so we're going to move ahead, and our presenters are actually going to present here and at Big Kansas City later today. So with a smaller crowd, we haven't had this for months now. I think we can have a really detailed and exciting conversation this morning. So we hope that all of you will engage. There's plenty of coffee in the back, enough for a couple cups. So let's all get caffeinated and get ready to go. Our first company, Our first company presenting today is Leap2, and I'm very excited to have them here. Last year, when this first 1 Million Cups started, when we were grabbing people from the hallway here to start this program, Leap2 was the first presentation that we ever had. So we're approaching almost our 1-year anniversary, and these guys have come such a long way. So they are purely changing the way that you use search, which is a huge market with a lot of big players like Google, Yahoo. Am I missing a ton, I'm sure? Microsoft. So it's incredible, and their product is very, very cool, and they're right here in Kansas City. So they're going to give you an update, kind of show you where they've come in the last year, and they have some exciting activities for us to do. Let's just put it that way. So everybody, welcome Mike Farmer, and Tyler Van Winkle will make his way up here as well.
Thank you, Nate. Hats off to 1 Million Cups. It has been a year. It's been an incredible year. The growth that you've gone through is, going to additional cities is great. Got up here a year ago and talked about a vision for a pretty significant idea, and I was thinking about it this morning 1 year later. The statement that I made back then, and I will make it again, is, all right, here is a guy and a group in Kansas City that's looking to reinvent search. And fundamentally, I said, to be intellectually honest, just our core group being able to do that, probably not possible, but I made the statement a year ago that I felt like with this community that we have here in Kansas City, that I thought it was in fact possible. And it's amazing, the collaboration. A lot of it's through 1 Million Cups. Like we're now collaborating with VML, with Sprint, with some major firepower here in Kansas City to go after a very significant market. So I want to give you an update first on where we're at. First, a couple of seconds on my background. I grew up in Western Kansas, spent a couple of years in Washington, D.C., 5 years in Silicon Valley and 2 years in New York. It was actually while I was in Silicon Valley that I got my itch for entrepreneurship and did my sort of first invention project, which was to build and design and invent a tabletop tornado. It was as a result of that I got a full fellowship and went back east to New York to study actually radical innovation at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute at the master's level. And while I was there, I was with another group, and invented a jacket that actually self-inflates if people go overboard. It automatically self-inflates. That company is still going on. 10 years ago, I moved back to Kansas, family reasons, and one of the first projects that I took on when I was here, I was vice president at K-Tech. I came up with the strategy that created the $600 million Kansas Economic Growth Act that has led to the Kansas Bioscience Authority, as well as the angel investor tax credit. A lot of people know that. And then most recently, actually 8 years ago, and Tyler and I started in on our first search company here in Kansas City. It was then that we actually took and created a full working prototype of voice search 8 years ago. And just to give you a little bit of context, that was 18 months before Google would come out with their voice search. We actually built it on a messaging platform, did it here in Kansas City, and about 2 years before Siri would come out with theirs. So it was back then that got the itch for what I think is a fundamentally different way to look at and think about search. So today I'm here to give you an update on what we're working on, what a core group of us have been working on, really for the larger part of about 3 years, but if you go back to some of our thinking, it goes back even further than that. So if you think about it, search today is like walking. It's a very engineered experience, and nothing wrong with engineers, but it's very list-based. It's like going to the library and heading straight for the card catalog and then just going directly to that book. The vision that we had for Leap is that as I'm going to that book, maybe I come across somebody who tells me something about, providing more context, some serendipity. Maybe I get to know those books around that, so that the whole experience becomes much more enriching. You have the opportunity for serendipity of discovery. So with that, about 2.5 years ago, and my apologies, you can't read this, we laid out all the different aspects. We did what's known at IDEO and in the Stanford realms as a deep dive. We did it on all the problems, all the features we could bring in, what are the trends, what are the new things we could bring in. So several key things I would point out, key elements there that we have been thinking about for the last 3 years is top-down search is out, information is alive, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and no more search lists. Interesting little side note, it was 2 years ago that we had a chance meeting with one of the original founders of Android, and we painted the vision for what we wanted to do, in particular do away with search lists and go direct to the web, and they told us that fundamentally what we wanted to do was not possible. I'm pleased to tell you that, candidly, first of all, they were right for up until about 3 months ago, largely because of bandwidth constraints and these type of things. But we had this long view that at the right point, at the right time, that we were going to turn the web into an app. So where are we today? A lot of people here at Kauffman and people who have been supporting us have seen us grow. We have run a lean startup model, which means we put out a minimum viable product, and we kept revving and updating, and primarily for our back-end guys, they're sitting over there, could watch the data coming in so we could see how users were using this. We initially came out with a version that had the navigation wheel, so it would you could go direct to the web, and then for each of your terms, your queries, it would pull up a new site. We then, to fast forward, right after 1 million cups last year, we had a big idea, and that was to integrate social media with Leap2, and I will tell you that that's where we experienced our first pivot, and that is that basically social media, Facebook and Twitter, provide extraordinary context for the users. It was also in October that we announced a fundraising round, and we closed most of it very quickly, and we were able to bring on the full development team. Here is our product team. Everybody here in this photo is based here in Kansas City. A lot of experienced professionals in and around recommendation engines, search engines. You might recognize Thad Langford. He's investor and advisor as well. But an incredible group. That one of the things that happened along the way was in October of last year, we were featured on the front page of the New York Times on how we've gone about building this here in Kansas City. And the gist of the story was it was a very distributed model on both the team and how we telecommuted, but the other part that I think that gets back to this, how can we actually pull this off in Kansas City, was that if you think about in today's world how you can leverage and pull in APIs and leverage systems and build on top of cloud and all these things, that I think it's very exciting. Also, I will mention we moved into Google Fiber's first house that they turned on. It's in Startup Village, afforded us a lot of attention. CNN Anderson Cooper came, spent some time with us. So the awareness is there. So now it's just a function of executing and delivering. And with that, I'm going to let Tyler give you an update, exciting update where we're at.
So we're a little short on time, so I'll make it kind of quick. But kind of the idea of where we're headed is search is not or should not be what it has been or what we know it to be, right? Search lists, black and white text, websites, websites being ranked by people that like those websites, and whoever can pay for the most paid search advertisements seems to win. But I think that social and the data that social is providing, the trends that's in that data, like we see here, is still an unsolved undertaking. So we think that we might have a solution, or that we're working towards a great solution. And how many people are on Android devices today? Quite a few. So if you don't have an Android device and your neighbor does, please share. But we'd like to invite you to something that is not out in the market yet. It will be out in the market soon. This is a first look. This is the only time you're going to get it. This link's going to be down within the next probably 48 hours. So please grab your browser on your Android device, hit this link, pull down the APK, and take a look. I'm going to change the slide in about 15 seconds, so do it quick.
One of the exciting things about Leap, in the past you would be presented with a search bar, and Tyler's going to go into this, but if you do get it installed and open it, what you're going to see is that for the first time, information is brought to you contextually.
Are we ready? Sure. So we have this concept that, and I would say this is probably one of the vision statements for the company, that if you leap, the net will appear. The data's there. The infrastructure exists. All that you have to do is get out there into that web and start exploring. Our belief at Leap2 is that we're past this age of information retrieval. Like, you shouldn't have to go out and dig and uncover and link and go back to dig again, right? It's about information discovery. Like, we have too much information. Content is at a point that it's never been before. So it's more about figuring out what somebody's looking for and then trying to bring that information to them without forcing them to go out and look. So Leap Live and the demo that you're downloading on your phone or are hopefully downloading on your phone is one of our first steps towards that. If you take a look and then keep an eye on it, all these versions will be out in both the Android and the iOS store, and then there's a couple other surprises that'll hopefully be coming along with it within the next week or week and a half. So that's it.
With that,
all right, guys, this is the time where we open it up for questions. There's 116 of you here, so it's time to pepper them with questions. Make your way to the mic. That way that the folks on streaming can do that. I'm happy to run the mic as well. So do we have any questions for Leap2?
Can we confirm the address that you guys just gave us?
/1MC. The number 1 and then M and C.
Who has an iPhone here? Can you describe the experience? Can you describe the experience a little bit about what the Android folks are experiencing?
Yes, absolutely. So what we have been working on, and up until now, but have not released, is an experience that provides context to search. So the search bar is in the middle of the experience. You search something, let's say the Kansas City Royals. What Leap2 does is it takes you to the top 3 results, which most likely, if it's during a baseball game, will be a box score. So let's say it's the 5th inning of the game. So you get the box score. You don't have to go through search lists. And then above, you will see either news, tweets, or Facebook updates about that based on the context. So you might read that, hey, our pitcher is now throwing over 100 pitches. He's throwing the ball high. And they've got 3 runners on, even though we're up 3-0. This isn't looking good. A whole lot more information.
That's a lowercase MC, by the way, for anybody that's trying to hit it, not an uppercase MC. I apologize. The deck got put together before the page did, so bear with us.
That was important.
That was important.
Yes.
How you guys
Lowercase
doing?
MC.
Doing great.
Good,
Thank
good.
you.
The first thing I noticed was there's no prediction.
There's no what?
Prediction, no predictive text. As I'm putting in, you said Kansas City Royals, so that I went to that and it didn't want to give me anything. And then the guy I was sitting next to put in soccer and it's not pulling up anything local.
Correct.
So we're interested in a little more information of why no prediction?
Okay.
Why not local, right here, right now,
Right.
real time?
Okay. So the first answer is we have been working immensely on the predictive side, what we call autocomplete. We're coming at autocomplete from a completely different perspective. We have an API that we can leverage. We've pulled it into previous systems, but we are working on an autocomplete system that is based on real-time tweets and information, so not on search behavior like you would have at Google. This is going to be deployed in an update here very soon. I mean, this is a private beta, and that will show up in the public version. But very good question.
Very good question, actually. And this is, we're firm believers in intellectual honesty. That's why we wanted to get a beta out. So early, often, feedback's important and wanted. So
your next question, soccer local. What's the question again?
The question was, excuse me. The question was local, like real time, right now. So if I pull up soccer, it should pull up Sporting KC.
Precisely.
I mean, we're huge. It's growing immensely.
Yep.
So I imagine it's relative to the answer to your first question. You know, it's a private AP and
Precisely.
So it's not in
No, when you
full
think
dev
about,
yet.
I mean, you're spot on with your question. When you think about mobile, 60% of all the searches are local. I mean, it's very, the data is out there. The opportunity to pull in local and personalization is where we're going with that first screen. So if you search soccer and we see that you're interested in Sporting KC, that we would just be pulling in eventually Sporting KC. So it would build that and know that.
But how are you going to know? How are you going to have that information about me where I am right now? I mean, it just seems logical that when I put soccer in right now, the app should know where I am. It should geolocate me.
So geolocation is there, and we do know. I mean, that's the real benefit of mobile is that almost every single mobile device is geo-enabled. So the hard part is getting that information surfaced in real time to that geolocation, and then taking a look at real-time localized information and comparing that to other trending real-time information, trying to figure out what's more important, the local information or the other real-time regional, national, or global information. And I'm sorry, I'm not a soccer guy, but if the
That was
MLB,
just the example. It
Sure.
was just, me neither.
But if in baseball terms, if the World Series is going on, right, but you're doing a search for baseball locally, and the Royals were out of the game 6 weeks ago, are you looking for World Series information because you're searching for baseball, or are you still looking for Kansas City Royals information and finding out what's going on postseason?
So then do you have, are you going to have like a trickle down? Like here's the most pertinent information on the word baseball or soccer or whatever it is, the word you've chosen or I've searched for. Here's the most pertinent, most popular search right now. And then here's an option for local or World Series or, and do you have that in place?
We're exploring right now a lot of different options on how that problem gets solved with the least impact to the user. Right.
So your local example, the best way and the way Google does this, which we can do that with real-time, with the real-time results, is we don't know the exact intent that you really want to know local sporting KC. So what you have to do is you have to have a failover system. So what we'll do, it could have been World Cup something that your intent was. So what we are doing and architecting this is that it would have both, and then based on user endpoints, feedback, that we would know that over time, all right, it is a local.
As well as what's trending in that real-time information, right? If World Series is trending really, really heavily, and there's a set of weights and scales and things that happen in our system that's our secret sauce,
right,
that we're probably not going to talk about,
order.
Right? Yeah. Things surface to the top sooner than other things surface to the top.
So. Understood. Well, thanks for taking the time and answering that.
Thank you.
Oh, so I was wondering, is this going to be just an app-based search, or are you going to have also a website? And how do you compete with Google? Because that sounds like you are in competition with Google, but I'm not sure if that is something that...
So the answer is threefold. So how do we compete with Google? The first is Google did not do a deal with Twitter in particular to do search for them, and that was about 12 months ago. So core differentiation there. A lot of citizen sort of journalism going on, at a baseball game, at a football game, at an event, at a restaurant, whatever. That's very, very powerful. The second thing is we are leveraging that core differentiation and we'll be allowing that search to live on. So you can get updates based on people who are doing that reporting on that. The third way is we're going direct to the web. I mean, fundamentally, that is a true creative destruction, or, we've got an article where literally it says Google faces an innovator's dilemma. I mean, you really don't need search lists, algorithmic searches, and this is not us saying this is like some of the leading investors in the Valley, Ron Conway in particular, said, the algorithmic search game is over. But I think really there's a fourth way, and to answer the first part of your question, very soon we're going to be releasing our web version. We are pretty excited about it. We call it the Science Project right now. But it has, the goal there is soon that you will have cloud search. So you're searching on your phone, you go to your desktop, we know the context that he was interested in local soccer, it all gets unified in cloud search. So you're logging in, and what you may have been searching with that device while you're out local, and then all of a sudden it's infusing and affecting what you see on your desktop on the web version.
Thank you.
Well, I understand the iOS version is coming. I'm just curious, why Android first?
Because we don't have the flexibility to distribute iOS as we choose. You're tied to the store, and then you're tied to other methodologies of distribution with your Apple developer license. So we cannot freely give that away at our own will, unfortunately. Sorry.
It's one of the critiques. You ask any developer that does native, and it's just a tough situation when you're trying to push out iOS. Yes, sir.
Hey, guys. You essentially were the first people in the nation to be able to have access to Google Fiber in your workspace. How has that impacted your business, and what has that maybe allowed you to do that you weren't able to do when you were in your previous location?
I can run 7 1080p high-def YouTube videos at the same time with a high-def Netflix video and play music and still have 700 meg of available bandwidth.
So he doesn't get any work done. He's watching videos.
And have a Skype conference. It's a funny thing about, having that much bandwidth available at your desktop is such a natural thing that you don't even notice it until you go home most of the time. Things happen and it's instant and it's fast, and your Skype video conferences and Google Hangouts are super, super clear and really effective, and you've got every guy in the house doing the same thing that you're doing, and then you go home and you fire up your Apple TV and you wait. And you're like, oh yeah, like I have 1,000 meg at the office. So it's a subtle implication, I think.
But I think what's interesting is until you arrive at a new reality, you don't think about that reality. I mean, we've had so much press that's come. MIT Tech Review, I mean, literally, he framed the question brilliantly. He's like, what can you do with a meg that I can't do with 200 megabits per second? And I mean, I literally was like, you've got to figure it out. I mean, that is a brutally tough question. But the flip side is, now that we've been experiencing it and playing with it, you start to think about and imagine different things. We've got a vision for what we're calling GigaSearch, and it would be like the Tom Cruise movie where where you could navigate the web three-dimensionally. I mean, load pages in real time and be able to navigate the web.
We get an opportunity to get a glimpse into the future of what I think the hope broadband would be nationwide and for every user. And I think that gives us a great edge from an innovation standpoint. You know, the hard part is that the reality of the situation is that's not the case. Like, you're probably lucky to get 20 meg at home on a good day. So while we get that glimpse ahead, we're still building for the common user, which is a 3G network and a broadband connection at your house.
My turn? Brilliant, guys. I did what you said, except for number 4 says do nothing. I had done a Google search on just Silicon Prairie as you guys were getting up, because I was like, okay, I got to make sure I understand what's going on there. And then I did it on yours and immediately got the information I wanted. When I did it on Google, I got buy Silicon Prairie stuff on Amazon or something, and about 7 of those. Talk about your revenue model. It seems like a lot of the search engine stuff has kind of degraded or eroded over time because they're chasing dollars, and the ad revenue weakens the experience. That's part of it. And then this goes away in 48 hours. Is that what you said?
No. The limited release is going to be taken down in about 48 hours, and you're going to have to wait for it to hit the store. If you have it installed on your phone, you've got it. If you can figure out a way to share it with your friends, I suggest you do so. But from a revenue standpoint, I think that's a great question. We think that one of the great things about context is you can deliver ads in a sense that make them valuable to the user. So an advertisement should be a benefit, not a liability. We get ads online and they take over our pages, and they're frankly a pain in the butt, and it's not a great user experience. But if I'm doing a search for Silicon Prairie, and Silicon Prairie had bought an ad and said, hey, last minute ticket sales are 30% off, that is really relevant, and that's a benefit, that's a plus. We think that serving those ads in context with search, and the way that we've built our system that is a contextual environment where you are getting multiple sources of information at one time, actually is a plus.
And I would just add 2 sort of additional practical comments. The first is we have a strategic relationship with indirectly with Yahoo, through a syndicated partner, to pull in their sponsored search listings. We will do it, and we will turn that on in the upcoming months, and we will do it on a very dialed basis. Do you want to go very precise? Our goal, one of the key goals is, let's keep the experience highly relevant, and we want to look at search ads as enhancements to the experience. So if I search for Spin Pizza, if I can locate a deal via Twitter, that's great, that's huge. The second thing I would say, and why search is so interesting in today's environment, every day you open up the newspaper, you read about Facebook, you read about Twitter. These are game-changing companies in social media. There are also companies that will monetize on an average revenue per user anywhere from $3 to $5. Alternatively, Google sits out here at $15 because it's a lot more relevant to know intent versus, I'm just talking with my coach over Facebook about soccer, and I get an Allied insurance ad versus I search for spin pizza, I get a deal. And that, that is why search is so fascinating and so interesting. And candidly, it's something that's really, really playing into our favor. To really go and capture users, what we have determined in the last 3 months is there are some absolutely, I can't name them, staggering brands, online publishers, who realize this reality and realize that candidly, for 10 years, they've been just shoveling, based on their content, money over to Google. And the reality is, they want to get in on, an ESPN, the Weather Channel, these type of things. They've got the users, they've got the content. Now, if they could just get them in some capacity searching with a strategic partner, and I mean, it's a game changer. It's our go-to-market. I mean, literally, that there is. I mean, you got to call it what it is. I mean, Google has 97% market share. Does anybody like that reality? I mean, but yet you've got staggering companies and brands and, telcos and that sit over here. And honestly, it's also your publishers. It's Kansas City Star. Our newspapers across this country are struggling. A lot of people will point to, all right, there's this redirect engine that happened. We call it, by going to search lists, well, here, look at my list, I'm going to serve you an ad, I make money. The reality is, if I type Kansas City Star, I probably wanted to go to the Kansas City Star. I don't know that people should make money out of it. But anyway.
Which I think also speaks back to their innovator's dilemma, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's 100%. You said, search is watered down. And honestly, we're kind of counting on the fact that a lot of people feel that way. Your experience for search is based on Google's monetization model, not on something that's been engineered to be a great user experience.
Yeah, you said it better. Yes. So I can tell everybody about this now?
Sure.
I mean, it's a private beta. It's largely for people here in Kansas City that are part of 1 Million Cups.
Yes.
Big KC, yes.
Okay, so we have time for just the wrap-up one MC question. What can we do as a community to help get you, where you're wanting to go? Do you need more developers? Do you need more exposure? What can we do as a community?
Tell everybody about it and download it. I mean, I think from our perspective, what we need is users and adoption and some virality coming in behind it. If you like the app, if you think there's potential, we want feedback, we appreciate it, we're looking forward to it, the more the better. And the more people that you can help us get the app installed or hitting the web version, the better.
I think we talk about this region and we look at it as a region. I think what Big KC is doing with Silicon Prairie and looking at this is not just Kansas City, but Des Moines, Omaha, and all that. You look at that population base, we can create a pretty staggering sounding board for really creating a dent and causing buzz on a national basis for this. And I think I think when he keeps telling me I can't talk about the web and get too excited about it, I got to play it down. But when you see that plus the next update, I think there's going to be a real significant experience there that could be disruptive, I guess.
Awesome. Well, we'll give these guys a big round of applause. And every week I'm able to come in and see these companies, and it is impressive. Guys, what you're doing is amazing. You guys, I'm assuming, will be around a little bit afterwards. So I know there was still a few more questions that people wanted to ask, but look these guys up. So we have an announcement from Connecting for Good coming up, if we can get you up here.
Good morning. My name is Rick Dean. I'm with Connecting for Good, and we've got 3 things to tell you guys about real fast. This morning, maybe by now, in the next few minutes anyway, our Neighborly campaign is going live to fund phase 2 of our Juniper Gardens build. You can go to our website and learn a lot more about that, or you can catch me afterwards. 2, this Friday, from 4 to 7, we're having our grand opening celebration at our location in Westport. We're a block away from the fiber space. And everybody is welcome to come. It's going to be an awesome experience. Food, pizza, wings, beer, wine, lots of good times, and hear all about what we're up to. And then finally, you guys get the exclusive first announcement that next Monday we're opening a co-working space in our building with memberships starting at just $75 a month. So come talk to me.
Thanks a bunch. So we have one more announcement here. Put this on your radar. We've got City Camp KC coming up April 20th. And that's an event that focuses on innovation and creativity, and then also connecting the local doers with local government and being able to get innovation really kickstarted here in Kansas City, more so than it even is. So you can find more information about that at citycampkc.org, and I'm sure we'll have more information also on our Twitter page and different things to help you guys connect with what else is going on. But we'll kick things back over to Nate and keep things rolling along.
Cameron, did you have an announcement? Or Stephanie, did you have a... Come on up here.
I'm Stephanie Zamora. I run the Innovation Center out in Independence, the mixed-use incubator. We've got a culinary incubator and a whole variety of food businesses. We've created a workshop on April 4th, specifically for food-related businesses. So if you've got a food product, if you own a restaurant, if you know a restaurant that needs to be doing better social media, send them to our website or to our Eventbrite page. It's April 4th. From 6 to 8, it's $10. And the website is innovationcenter.eventbrite.com. And I will pass it back to Nate.
All right, so we're going to get into our second presentation. I'm so excited to introduce Shane Reiser. Shane's here from Omaha, which is my hometown. He came down for Big Kansas City. And, you know, one of the largest struggles that we have at the Kauffman Foundation is you can't help entrepreneurs if you don't know where they are. And this is something that we see all across the world. You know, it's hard to get entrepreneurs to say, like, I'm exactly here at this point. And so Shane Reiser started startup Genome, which he's going to walk you through, which is basically the largest project to map startup communities, to see all of the players in Kansas City. So what are the 250 startups in Kansas City growing right now? What are the funders, the community champions, the nonprofit resources available to entrepreneurs here? So it's an amazing product. I don't want to say any more, but Shane, please come on up, and we're really excited to have you in Kansas City, have you with us.
Thanks, bro. Is this working? Yeah. Well, I'm not redefining search, so up until that, I thought I was dreaming big. But this is a project. It's a side project of mine. It's kind of an experiment, so I just want to show it to you today. Thanks for having me out. My name's Shane. Are you guys familiar with Startup Weekend? A few people? All right, so Startup Weekend is a nonprofit based out of Seattle. Received some grant money from the Kauffman Foundation. And they run weekend events to help entrepreneurs kind of get started. The idea is to like launch a company in a weekend. It's a little crazy, but they're growing phenomenally. And I was the first paid employee there, and I helped them kind of scale up and train their volunteer network around the world. And during that experience, I met a lot of people in cities in different countries around the world, and a lot of them I noticed they were mapping their local startup community, and it looked like this. Or this, which is just not helpful. Like, what are you gonna do with that, right? And they were doing it in Excel or mind mapping software, and they weren't sharing them with other people in the community, or they were moving on to a new job or something, and they would abandon it, and it would get really stale very fast. So the problem is the data's hard to find. It's not actually helpful. It's incomplete, it gets stale very quickly, and there's all these different silos that people are creating in different cities, sometimes different silos in more than one city, or in that same city. So the result of that is When people make these maps, they dream of sharing them and helping entrepreneurs figure out what's going on in their city. But it doesn't work. Entrepreneurs still have no idea really what's going on in their city, especially new aspiring entrepreneurs or people move to a new town. It's really hard to figure out who's who, what are the startups, who's funding what in what industry, and how do I insert myself into this community. The community builders, the people who are running startup weekends, running accelerator programs, people who are focused on growing the entrepreneurial community, they're flying blind. They really are. They're making guesses. They're looking at other cities, and they're saying, that program looks cool. Maybe we'll try that here. They don't really know what's going to work for them. And organizations like Startup Weekend or any accelerator program or Kauffman or whatever, they touch a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of companies, and they have a really hard time measuring their impact. So I tried to build something to solve this problem, and it was terrible. So I threw it in the trash, started over, built something else. You can check it out. Please don't look at it on your phone. It looks like shit on a phone. It's not mobile optimized. It's not tablet optimized. But again, if you have your laptop open, which none of you do, you can go to startupgenome.com/city/KC, and this is what it looks like. Oh, by the way, the whole thing looks like shit in general because I designed it and I'm not a designer. So very simple, low fidelity MVP is a map. So let's take all the startups and all of the community enablers, which is what I call all the other things in a startup community that are important, the nonprofits, the associations, those type of things. Let's put them on a map for a city. This is the Kansas City map. Really simple. You can figure out where things are. They're clustered. So you can say, oh, there's a lot of activity right here, a lot of activity downtown. That's kind of obvious. Maybe you're trying to figure out where to have your startup office. You're like, oh, there's a lot of stuff going on right here. You've got cool filters, like, the different types of things. Just show me community enablers, just show me investors, accelerators, that kind of stuff. You've got some more interesting filters, like just show me startups that were founded before 2011. You kind of go back in time in your community. Or just show me companies that have raised at least $1 million in funding or have at least 15 employees. Everybody has a different definition of what a startup is. I originally thought, we're going to draw the line. Like, can Best Buy be in here? The answer is no to that. But can Amazon be in here? Because they were a startup at some point, but now they're not, right? But they were at some point. And some people are like, oh, a startup is 50 employees. Once they're 50 employees, they're not a startup anymore. Or 2 years. After 2 years, you're not a startup. Everyone has their own definition, so we just put filters and sliders, and you guys can look at the cross-section of data you want. So that's what we built, really simple. There's also a list view. You can do the same filters. Every company has a profile page. By the way, this is a side project for me. I work full-time at a company called Dwala, based in Des Moines. This is their page. Honestly, it's a little bit like Crunchbase. We're trying to build a better Crunchbase. Crunchbase could have been so much, but they dropped the ball, really. So we want to come in, build a better Crunchbase, have really cool visuals on top, make it open and accessible. So our goals with this is to be accurate, to be fresh and up to date, i.e. not Crunchbase, open and free, and then make it actually useful. So the approach is a hybrid of crowdsourced, so you can go onto the site and you can add yourself, but also locally curated. So if you noticed on the Kansas City map, you've got Nate and Jennifer and a few other people. These people are curators for Kansas City. And what they do is they approve and reject new submissions that people submit. They also add stuff themselves. They import stuff from existing sources they might have. Kauffman sent me a big database. I imported it. And they kind of are the goalkeeper for their local community. The problem with Crunchbase is there's 2 guys in the New York office who work at AOL approving everything. And they don't know what's going on in Kansas City. So why not, Nate does. So he should be the shepherd for Kansas City, if you will. It's all embeddable. So I don't care about people going to startupgenome.com. I want to build the most accurate database. And there's a lot of local efforts that already exist in some cities. So you can go to any map, click the embed button, which is in the bottom, and define what you want to have on the map and then put it on your site. There's an API. It's completely open. You can suck all the information out if you want to right now. You can push information back. And some of it, and this is what I'm really excited about, some of it is automated, and that's what I'm really excited about for the future of this. We've got integrations with AngelList and LinkedIn and Twitter right now, and Full Contact. Full Contact, by the way, gives us information about people. So I can like send an email address over and it'll spit back all the social media profiles and demographic information, all that. I can pre-populate stuff. But then services like Quantcast and Compete is going to allow me to basically pull in information about companies, investments, stuff like that, make it as automated as possible, because I don't want Nate to have to do data entry. I just want him to promote it locally. So if we can achieve all of this stuff, if we can achieve freshness, if we can achieve inclusiveness, and by inclusiveness I mean everybody in the community can get involved with this. Service providers can list. There was a category for service providers. If you've read Brad Feld's book, Startup Communities, he talks about one of the key philosophies to any successful community is inclusiveness. You've got to let anybody who wants to be involved. We're taking that approach. Anyway, if we can achieve all this, I think we can do something really cool. So far, we've collected that much information. We've got 265-ish local curators around the world in their city promoting it, adding new stuff. We've got partnerships with Endeavor and Startup Weekend. A lot of our curators are Startup Weekend organizers, Startup Digest curators. A lot of them are entrepreneurs themselves. We've got folks running accelerators and incubator programs that are curators for their city or their country. By the way, the map works at a city level, it works at a state level, it works at a country level, and you can customize a region too. So there's like a Silicon Prairie map that has all of the areas. It's all really simple. We've got a data sharing program with the Money Tree report, as well as PricewaterhouseCoopers. And then Dane told me I can announce this today. We've got a partnership with Kauffman. They gave me a little grant money. So I'm excited for that because it's been a project of mine on the side. And now I'm able to accelerate it, put a little fuel behind it. Thank you for that. Nice. Appreciate that. So what's next? More automation. I think that's key. Cool charts and graphs. So why not have some cool pie charts that show industry breakdown or timelines to show how a community is growing? Maybe compare that to another community. Talent heat maps, flow of capital. We have all the data. We just got to build cool charts and visualizations, make them interactive. I don't know if you saw earlier, but on the left sidebar, there was 3 tabs. It was map, list, and then charts. You can't click on charts right now. It's not built yet, but I'm excited for it. Sorting and tagging, make it not ugly. Who here knows what fugly stands for? Okay, make it not fugly. And then, whatever else you guys want. That's one of the reasons I was excited to come out and show this to you, so you can give me feedback, tell me what you think should be added, what sucks. And my call to action to you is go add your startup to the Kansas City map. Claim yourself. You might already be in there. We imported 100% of everything from Crunchbase already, which was kind of a mistake. It's very, very dirty data. We've been cleaning that up. We've been importing other stuff as well. So you might already be on there. There's a claim button. You can claim it. Look for yourself too. Go check it out. There's the URL. And then other calls to action I have are help me build it. I need help. I need somebody with data visualization experience. I need somebody who cares about this stuff, who just wants to talk to me about it, give me advice. And there's my email address. So that's the project. What do you think? Thank you. You got any questions for me? Or it doesn't have to be a question, actually. You can walk up and just say something for my benefit. Like, you just give me advice right now. It could be a comment. It doesn't have to be a question. Yeah, sure. What's up?
So this is cool. So I have a little start, like barely even a startup, and something I could see to be really valuable. I spoke a couple of weeks ago, and lately been reaching out to all sorts of different companies for T-shirts and just all sorts of various resources I need here in Kansas City. Do you have anything built in to where I could go on this website and actually find particular companies, because I mean, this is, obviously a community effort, that they kind of express that they're ready to help other businesses in whatever endeavors, or like, a t-shirt company, if I'm searching on there, I can find the company, and because they're, locally based, that they would help me start up and beginning with whatever certain resources I need. Does that
Okay,
make sense?
so you're wondering if this can help you find local service providers?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you could like make it to where they express that they're open to help other people in the community.
Okay. Well, I'd hope by adding themselves, they'd be open to new business. Yes and no, I guess. I mean, yes, there's service. Do you have a pen? By chance, I'm going to take notes. I mean, there's service providers there right now, so you can browse them, and some of them are tagged. But I think what we need to achieve that is like categorization by type. So I don't have it. That's a good idea. I didn't originally plan for like a service provider directory. There's a lot of folks doing that. I'm a little scared to get into it. Just like I'm scared to get into like a job board and events calendar. Everyone's asking for that on this. There's a lot of people solving that problem already. Maybe I have to get into it. Okay, so categorization and searching of service providers. Thanks. Hey.
Hey, I'm wondering why, do you not have a smartphone?
I do.
There's apps to take notes on those. Have you tried that?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Do you use the app? Do you use Android or do you use Apple?
I get an iPhone, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I usually take notes on there, but
there's a great app by Google called Keep. Check it out.
Keep?
Keep.
I never heard of that. I use Captio. It's a good one, and I use Evernote. But I just had this in my pocket. Actually, what I really wanted to do was not make you think I was like tweeting. I wanted to show you I was actually taking notes and listening. So I'm probably gonna I'm probably gonna put this into Evernote later.
Shane, one of the cool things for us is actually Cameron and I share an office, and the mind mapping software that you showed earlier that's like hung up on our wall. So when this came along, it was great. I mean, it was just a giant step in the right direction. And what I love is kind of your hybrid model where curators hold each other accountable. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the psychology behind that and how that's playing out? And I know like Kansas City isn't the most robust map, but maybe like Phoenix or one of the beta cities has kind of built out. Can you talk a little bit more into that?
Yeah, sure. That's probably our biggest challenge. Recruiting curators is, I wouldn't say easy, but people can get really excited and say, yeah, we'll curate. And then getting them to actually curate is a different story. Like you, Nate, you're signed up, but you really haven't done much yet.
That's true.
Are you busy?
Cameron?
Yeah. What could be more important? So in this, actually, the state of Arizona is looking at it from a state perspective. They're really not doing it on a city-by-city basis. And there's like 10 curators, and they actually meet every month, and they just, over coffee, and they say, what new startups have popped up? So when they first did it, they met, and they did like a 3-hour session where they went through the data that we already had in the system, they deleted stuff, they added new stuff, and they sent me a spreadsheet which I imported. Once that was done, it looked great. They started to promote it, and now they meet monthly, just the curators, and just talk. What new startups have you heard about that needs to be in here? What can we do new to promote this? That's working really well for them. One thing I'm concerned about is succession planning. Is that, I showed you the really ugly maps that people make and then they move on and they forget about it. That could happen here too. I've had some experience with that at Startup Weekend. People organize Startup Weekend events and then they don't do it again. And they don't, hand the torch over to the next person. And that was a big problem. But I put a succession planning program in place and working on that here too. I think it's key to have a team. If it's just 1 or 2 people, that's a problem, or can be a problem. But if you have a small team and one person needs to step out, then you find somebody else. And so it's going to take work on my part to insert myself and make sure people are thinking about succession planning. And I love the idea of meeting. once a month or whatever. It doesn't have to be once a month. You know, they're doing the entire state, so they do it once a month. In New York, they're constantly talking with each other. In Omaha, where I live, it's just two of us. We don't even meet, and there's really nothing. I can't think of any new startups that popped up in the last 2-3 months. So it's very hands off once you get that map going. So it depends on the size of the city. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, and I have one more follow-up question. How big could this be? I mean, I think this is transformative because, from a nonprofit's perspective, like I said, I mean, it's really hard to reach your audience if you don't know where they are. So we're able to funnel resources better. So we have a target now, but also just being able to understand the entire landscape of how things are going. I think it changes the game because there's so many entrepreneurs that are just, trying to build a business in their basement because they don't know, they don't know where else to go. They don't know what's out there. So how big could this be? And what's your vision for it?
Well, I don't know how big it can be, but I think it can be huge. Techstars called me up and they said that they have no idea what happens to companies after they leave their program. And they also have a really hard time, because they get like thousands of people who apply every semester or every class. And they have a really hard time kind of choosing them. And so they said, why not give us like a white label version of this? Let us tag all the companies that apply. And then we can use all the data you have to quickly filter out companies based on things like how much money they raised in the past, how many, is this a 1 or 2 person team, to help them in the selection process, but then also afterwards track companies as they go on, track the growth of the companies. Are they going on to raise more money? I'm sure they find that out, but how many employees, like when do employees join? Techstars is a big program. They're one of the most successful accelerator programs I think they were recently deemed the most successful. And they're having a tough time tracking their impact. So if they're having a hard time, and they've got a lot of money and everyone thinks they're sophisticated, but they're having a hard time. So if they're struggling, I think a lot of folks are struggling, a lot of organizations are struggling. If we can help them, I think we can help them do better at what they're doing, then like the impact can be huge. That's what I'm excited about. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. What's up?
Hey, so one of the things that we struggled with as a community here before we got to where we are now is, if somebody who is very connected and in some cases was the only node between like a large portion of the community and everybody else, like if they would move away, then if we didn't like literally go through their contact book with them before they left, we would lose some of those connections. And one of the advantages of sort of that mind map or like a mesh map is seeing where, the weak points are and how connected the community is and making sure you introduce people so that those are more redundant. Do you guys, in terms of building a better Crunchbase, do you guys see eventually getting more into the connections between the people rather than just who the companies are and where they are and all that stuff? If for like a good metaphor in sports, they always talk about like successful coaches and their assistant coaches moving on. It's like their coaching tree or whatever, and being able to see sort of some of that perspective to the community and who's worked with who and all that stuff.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, the mind mapping thing is awesome. It's a challenge. Like you saw those mind maps, there was a lot. And it's hard to like look at and kind of digest visually. So we tried to make a few, and it was just really hard to make useful. But I want to figure it out. We're sucking in LinkedIn information. We can look at your 1 or 2 or 3 degree relationships. So we could. I just got to figure out how to show it. We could, if you want to meet somebody, we can show you the path to get to that person, and we can try to find highlight those nodes. I need help with that stuff. I don't understand it. I don't know how to make it look pretty and actually usable. If you have ideas, please tell me. But I think that is huge. Honestly, I think the next thing we're going to do along those lines is literally just have a connect button on everybody's page, and you can click it. And there's something that you can turn on or off on your own profile, but you just click it, and it will it's a forum and you can contact that person. We'll start there and go from there. But didn't really answer your question, but I've been thinking about it a lot. Hi.
Hi, Shane. I have just a quick question. How do you do your vetting for startups? Do they have to be vetted? Or are they people with just an idea in their basement?
It's a good question, and I wrote a blog post about it on our blog. It's like, what is a startup and who gets to be in this? I think the answer is to try to be more inclusive than not, and then use filters and categorizations to kind of exclude people from the default view. So there's the startups category, and then there were service providers, and then there was one called small businesses. So we did have like restaurants, like adding themselves. And at first we were like, reject. And some cities actually decided to do that. But we added the small business category because, like, for example, Brad Feld is a curator in Boulder, and he's like, well, they want to be involved. He's very inclusive. It's like they want to be involved. Like, let's not reject them. Let's not say no when they want to get involved, because that's just like, it's going to turn them off to the startup community forever if they just get rejected. So let's include them. Let's just create a different category called service providers. We won't show it by default, but people can click on it and they can, or small businesses, not service providers. They can click on it if they want to see those, but let's get them in the system. Now, there's another question you asked, which is, like, in the life cycle of a startup, like, when can they jump in? And I think the idea stage is, well, for one, like, I can't pull that information anywhere. It doesn't exist. It's only in the mind of the person who had the idea, and it's up to them to go at it. So that's not happening yet. It's like the phase where they call themselves something, and it's usually more than one person, and they have like a website or a logo or something. Like, that's kind of like, we are a thing. That's when I want to get them in the system as soon as possible, because then I can track their growth and the next steps they take, which would provide more insight into the earlier life cycle of a startup, which is probably the least researched. I'm pointing to Nate, but he's not there. The least researched stage of a startup. That makes sense.
So at some point, startups have to get their startup union card, so to speak.
No, that's a good point. It's like, when are you a startup? Is it incorporation? Is it like just register a domain? Like, when are you a startup? I don't know the answer to that.
And I noticed here on the site for the map of Kansas City, there's a lot of different categories, starting with startup, and then incubators and accelerators. Can you add to that list? Like, I've got a co-working space that I don't consider, and I'm a startup, so I don't have it yet, but I'm working on it. And I don't consider myself to be an incubator or an accelerator.
Right. Yeah. So under community enablers, the first 2 or 3 subcategories are co-working spaces, hacker spaces, shared offices. So we do have but it's hidden under community enablers. So yeah, but that's customizable by city, actually, the categories. Absolutely. Which co-working space?
Propeller Center.
Okay.
Propeller Center.
Cool. There's like 3 here, right? Is there 3 co-working spaces in Kansas City-ish? More than that, huh?
Yeah, there's quite a bit more. Yeah.
Well, a year ago, there was only like
We've got Connecting
3.
for Good that's starting
That's awesome.
on.
Cool.
Great. Let's give Shane a big hand.
Yeah, thanks for having me out. Appreciate it.
So thank you all again for coming out. Can we have a show of hands of who was new this week? Something we like to keep track of. That is just amazing. So thank you all very much for coming out. Enjoyed it.